how important is the influence of social memory on vaccine hesitancy, and what needs to be done to address this in terms of how research is conducted?
It's a huge issue. And part of the challenge with social memory, societal memories and experience, is that some of it is very deep. Like, for instance, we have led a lot of the community engagement and trust building around one of the big Ebola vaccine trials in Sierra Leone and in Ghana and a few other places. But in Sierra Leone, I mean, the countries that were affected by Ebola, their historical and social memories of just the how they were treated, this relationship with government, the distrust, those underlying relationships don't get better in times of crisis. They get exacerbated. And when you have kind of broken historic trust, that plays out in vaccines. And we've seen that in a number of settings. We've seen it, and it doesn't even have to be a previous vaccine issue. It's about a breakdown in the social memory. I wrote a paper on this actually with a colleague around at the time of the H1N1, saying that this is an opportunity to build trust rather than have it be a memory of broken trust. But for instance, in the UK, the MMR issue was on the heels of the public's a bit of distrust around how the information sharing around BSE and the mad cow issues were. In France, some of the hepatitis B vaccine anxieties were on the heels of a tainted HIV blood scandal, that there was information known and not shared. In another case, in Nigeria, the polio vaccine boycott. In the background, there was a court case about a child who had died during a meningitis drug trial, and that, you know, they felt like the information was not shared. The death was not deemed related to the trial, but they actually won the case because of not due diligence with the ethics. So you can have social memories of experiences that were not vaccine specific, but broke trust with the institutions. So to the extent that you can kind of get a read on some of the weak spots that need some TLC and a bit of relationship building, that's really important. You can't go in with your usual campaign to roll something out thinking that, you know, everybody's going to get hands on deck. Start gently in the places that there are vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And most of the time you can find that out.
So would you say it's the case is slightly different for maybe, I guess, certain countries that may have had a particular experience with, for example, the West?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Countries like Nigeria, countries like Ghana that may have had, I guess, they've had an experience with, colonialism, and so on top of that, that's an even stronger, hesitance and resistance towards vaccines, or Western international organisations that want to do vaccines. Would you say it's slightly different from other parts of?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, polio, I think we wouldn't be where we are. We would probably have eradicated polio if there weren't some of these historic social memories as also current geopolitical issues. I mean, the boycott in northern Nigeria, particularly in Kano State, I had talked to some of the local leaders, and one of them said, are you joking? The U.S. has just gone into Iraq. They want to kill all the Muslims. Why should we trust the polio vaccines? It's obvious. we don't have any trust. And then, you had the issue in Pakistan where there was a CIA effort to find bin Laden, and they did a fake vaccination campaign. Well, that's not helpful either. And that has stuck in the memory. There may not have been a direct influence on people's vaccine acceptance the next month, but it sits there now as a social memory that they do things like that. They do things we shouldn't trust. And there's issues, and I picked the U.S. because of those examples, but it could be with any
Yes,
country,
of course.
any colonial regime, or any other civil war, even internal conflicts where you don't trust certain local leaders. Those things play out in health campaigns, particularly vaccination, which is so strongly tied to government and affects everybody. I don't know. I really cannot think of any other single health intervention that touches every single person's life in the world. And in some cases, you can't go to school unless you get it. You can't, and the public is directed as to what to take and when to take it. And it's a challenge when that relationship is not solid.
On that final point, I'd like to honestly thank you, Dr. Larson, in taking the time out to conduct this podcast, in sharing your insights. So again, thank you.